Brill. So, as I've been introduced, I'm Hussein Wahid. I work at IBM. My current role, because it tends to switch from quarter to quarter, I'm an automation tester on one of our biggest projects in the country right now, a project called ESN, and that's just about much as I can tell you about it. No, well, no, that's a lie. It's essentially a project which revamps the way frontline um, emergency service members communicate. And that is how much I could tell you about it. Right. So, to get into the topic today around career pathways into computing and digital innovation, I do want to get a few prerequisites out the door first. So, I'm 22 years old, which means at maximum I'm probably 4 years older than most of you guys listening in today. Um, However, in those 4 years, the point at which I applied into the industry and the point at which you guys are now applying into the industry has drastically changed. Feel free to just pop something into the chat if you know what I'm referring to here. Um, but are people aware of what Gen AI is? And do you understand how that's affecting your entry into the tech industry? I'll give you about 2 3 minutes and then I'll whip up an answer for you guys if you're shy. Again, feel free to shout out, get off mic if you're feeling confident, or just put it in chat. I'm a very laid back, chill guy. I won't tell you off. Um, so Daniel, great. Let me fill you in on how it's affecting um, your entry point into Gen AI. I see Charlotte's put in like Chat GPT, Gemini, and I think the other one's pronounced Claude or DeepSeek if you use that. Yeah, that's generative AI. So, a bit of a storyline is generative AI came about, sat around for about like half a year or a year, and then it had this big, massive boom where everyone went, "Oh my god, it's amazing! It's going to automate so much stuff on us." So big companies like IBM, Accenture, Deloitte, Microsoft, Google, they all brought into the idea of generative AI. Now, the thing with generative AI is it's amazing at doing repetitive tasks and it's really efficient at doing those repetitive tasks. So, what it's done for the kind of market, so to speak, is it's raised the bar for what's considered the entry level into the industry. So when I applied into IBM as an apprentice, generative AI just about came out, um, and I already snuck my way in with a few mentors and other things I was doing outside of college. Um, but now, for you guys that are applying, you're going up against, frankly, quite the beast. Um, which smoothly brings us into how do you get your foot into the door and into the door then, right? Just pardon me here, let me just have a bit of a sip of a drink. So, from the applications that I've seen that have been successful within IBM, keep in mind IBM is a quite a big company. We've been within the industry for years now, and we're market leaders in quite a few areas. So do take this with a pinch of salt. Um, this is coming from an example of basically the creme de la creme. You might have other startup companies where the entry level is much lower than the big five, so Microsoft, Facebook, or they call themselves Meta now, Google and IBM and all the other big companies. But all the applications that are quite successful, you'll find one of two things. Number one is they are amazing at selling themselves. They might have a very shallow technical skill level. So, say they don't know what cloud is or they don't know what generative AI is, right? They might have a very shallow technical skill pool, but they're really, really good at selling themselves. Um, and when it comes to applying for jobs, apprentices, apprenticeships, or even grad schemes, a lot of the time companies will ask you to write a personal statement, and within that personal statement, it's literally what it kind of says on the tin. They want to know about yourself. Um, and when I've read quite a few personal statements from um, schools just around in the West Mids, right? I do a lot of work with the schools, obviously yourselves in King Ed's, Solihull Sixth Form, and other colleges and schools up and about. A lot of the time, students will almost tailor make it towards the company, and recruiters pick up on it. And when they pick up on it, no matter how technically well that student is, they'll essentially fold it and then put it to the side. Because what they really want to know is, again, about yourself. So talk about your hobbies, talk about what skills you've learned from those hobbies, um, and kind of talk about your eagerness to be within the industry and why. The big one is why, and that's a very, very hard one. To kind of link it back to myself a little here, to make it a bit more relatable, I guess, is I've got a massive hobby in computer gaming and obviously programming. Craig could tell you all about the programming stuff. I did annoy him quite a bit about it. um, and I went into my personal statement, wrote about, you know, oh, I've been programming since basically Ace, and I've been doing this for so long, X, Y, Z, hoping that would impress the recruiter on the other end. Um, Gave it off to my mentor to review. She came back to me and said, remove this bit, it's not going to work. Tell me why you want to be within the technical industry. And it kind of stumped me a little, because the immediate answer, and this might not be the motivator for most of you, but the immediate answer for me was money. Like, it's a job, it pays, it's a big company. That's a lot of our, as our generation would call it, that's a lot of clout. um, oh, I've worked at IBM. That's like basically saying you've been to Harvard or Cambridge. Um, that was my motivator, and I relayed that towards my mentor, and they came back and said, "Yeah, just talk about that then. You want to get into the industry, climb the ladder, earn a lot of money, and give back to the company," as a bit of a hint into what to say. So went in with that personal statement, went through, got my interview, did all my interviews and everything, and pretty much got the job. I'll go into the application process at IBM near the end of this um, webinar. Right now, but let's stick on topic with the pathways into tech. So we've discussed how the entry level has risen because of generative AI. Um, let's talk about what things you can do to combat that. And the first quick, easy win is start. I'm trying to find the right way to word this here to keep it as broad as possible. But start gaining skills in what you think you'll need on the job. And I know right now that's very difficult for you guys to pretty much know, like, what am I going to need to do on a day-to-day job, which I haven't ever done before. But reached out to people on LinkedIn, and you'll be surprised how comfortable they are sharing. For example, reach out to myself on LinkedIn if you want to know about software development, testing, cybersecurity, DevOps. Or I could tell you mostly what goes on. And if you've got time near the end, I might even go over the different roles and what they do, just to give you guys a bit of a head start. But yeah, look into specific skills for those roles. Point two, which is arguably more important than point one, is get really, really comfortable being really, really analytical. Like, almost scrutinize everything you see, hear, or know about technology. So, for example, how the cloud works, scrutinize it to the living core, absorb all that knowledge, and then display that off in either your CV, your personal statement, or if you get the chance in your interviews. It'll go a long way. It will go a long way. Um, Another thing which I personally don't like, but the market has gone that way. Get comfortable knowing at least one programming language. Um, and the main ones I'd say are Java or Python. Python less so than Java though. And the reason why I don't like that is because 4 years ago, and I'm saying back in my day, like I'm 52, but back in my day, you didn't need to know much about programming languages. You pretty much had to sell yourself, say you were able to adapt and learn quickly, and they essentially gave you a job. Um, was the way it went, which kind of smoothly brings me on to point 3 and 4. Um, Learn to adapt. So what I mean by that is almost look at different problems. It could be a philosophical problem, could be an English problem, could be a mathematical problem, just a problem, whatever, right? Um, Work on a problem for say half an hour or a week, depending on how complex it is. Then immediately switch to a different one to see how comfortable you are picking up something new. Because a lot of times in big firms and even smaller firms as well, actually, um, you will be thrown multiple different problems to solve and be given like a week or two to complete them. So when companies hire a graduate, a apprentice, an intern, they're looking for adaptability is the main thing, which is why I was saying about your personal statement. Talk about yourselves. Like I was saying, my hobby is video gaming. How do you turn basically entertainment into transferable skills at work? Um, so look at what hobbies you have. It could be football. It could be beauty if you're into it. It could be basketball. Again, video gaming. It could be anything but what you're applying for. So if you're applying to be a software developer, don't talk about your hobby being um, programming. Mention you've done it, but don't mention that as your hobby. And the reason I say that is because they almost know just by the length of how long you've been programming for what you're going to be good at, what you're going to be not so good at, and where you might need a bit more work. So they're not really interested in what you know programming wise. They're interested in you in that personal statement. So again, keep it about yourself. Look at your hobbies and think about what you can transfer across from your hobbies to your personal statement or to work in general, actually. Um, so to keep this interactive, is someone confident enough to share their hobby and kind of what they think can be transferred across into just the world of work? Forget technology for now, just into the world of work. Any of the playing piano? Could, yes, that's a brilliant one actually. Playing piano and learning patterns. That is a brilliant one. Um, you could even say learning quick. That's technically a transferable skill. So if you're learning new music sheets, I guess would be the right term, right, Michael? Um, if you're learning new music sheets and let's say it takes you a day to learn, you could just turn around and say, "Well, I learn things quickly," and yeah, that just it flies. It works. That's the main thing they're looking for in the personal statements. Anyone else? Oh, learning languages. Patrick, that is a very interesting hobby. I wish I had that hobby, but I'm just not smart enough. Yeah, so before IBM, I used to do competitive gaming. So I was basically like a semi-pro, almost pro. Oh, okay, so I'm being humble there. Um, I played Rainbow Six Siege professionally for like a year, and when I decided to quit that because I didn't want my whole life to be around playing a video game, and it just wasn't a stable career, I used the whole team building, the whole strategizing skills, and transferred them across into my personal statement and to my interview as well. Um, yeah, Charlotte, that is a brilliant one. That's essentially what I did. You'll find when you use that in an interview or even in your CV, recruiters will be very interested and intrigued. Um, Even though competitive gaming and gaming has been around for years now, the world of work is still yet to catch up to what we do. um, oh yeah, Blender's a really nice one actually. Um, if you want to get into like graphic design, that's a very, very good one. Daniel, if you're thinking about doing apprenticeships or a grad scheme, I'd recommend Playground Games. They're based in Royal Leamington Spa, and I think they might have a few cropping up soon. Don't quote me on that though. But yeah, something like Blender will play really well into a company like Playground Games. Interesting hobbies though. Interesting hobbies. Still shocked about the one about languages. Wish I had that one. Would make my life 100 times easier. So, discovered how to upskill yourselves and how to transfer skills from hobbies into your personal statement or into the world of work. We've also talked about so far challenges you guys are facing with Gen AI. Let's get into the different pathways into technology. So essentially, the different doors. They kind of fall into a few categories here. Um, you have internships, which are essentially like a year within the industry that you could do. You have T levels, very new thing, but I think that's more for the high school kids or secondary school kids that are based that like 16 to 15. I think that's what the T levels are for. Might need to Google that to confirm. You also have apprenticeships, which is what I did. You have the degree apprenticeships. I did one of those after my apprenticeship. So by the way, this is something you can do. Most companies will actually allow you to do it. So once you do, like, let's say a level 4 apprenticeship, you can immediately do a level 6. I'll get into the different level apprenticeships soon. You also have grad schemes, and you even have post grad schemes, which is for people doing like I think it's a doctorate or masterate, something like that. Um, so let's dive into the one that I know about, which is apprenticeships. Apprenticeships come in different shape and sizes. I know, very cliche sentence to say. You have level 4, which is essentially a foundation degree. Then it goes up to a 5 and a 6, which is basically like a bachelor degree, I guess. 7A is more like a master's. And then I believe there is a 9, which is an equivalent to a doctorate. But a lot of companies won't do a 9 because they cost a lot of money. And they view it as it's a negative return on investment. So they pay a lot of money to a university for yourself to get a doctorate, but they don't get much in return from you as an employee. I know of a very crude way of thinking, but you realize once you get into the world of work, it's quite cutthroat, but also quite nice, if that makes sense. It's not like everyone's out there to go after your neck, so to speak, but it is quite ruthless. Very ruthless, actually, I'd say. Uh, you almost have to be selfish to keep yourself going forward. And again, if I have any time near the end, I will go around great career tips you could take. So then we have internships. Those are quite self-explanatory, essentially. So you might have a uni degree. So say, for example, I am going to pick on one of the students that gave an answer in chat here. So apologies to Michael. I don't know why, but your name stands out. Say Michael gets a offer from Durham to do computer science, and he has 1 year industry within that course. So within that 1 year, Mike will have to go and find a company that will take him on for a year to do essentially an internship within industry. So that's essentially what that is. You pretty much apply for it. Depending on demand, you might get in, you might not. the application process is quite similar actually for all of these. So I wouldn't worry too much about, oh, if I apply for a degree apprenticeship, do I need to do something different for a level 4 apprenticeship? Not really, they're all the same. Um, and then you also have the grad schemes. So once you've graduated, a company does realize, okay, they haven't worked a year within industry ever. Um, let's go take them in on a grad scheme and give them a job. Or they might say, okay, they've done a 1 year in industry, but they don't have any real work time. So we'll put them on a grad scheme, which then will give them a full-time role within the company. So those are the different categories of ways you could get into the industry. But I want to kind of inject a bit of personal opinion in here, and this is very much a me opinion, not an IBM opinion. Um, Teachers, feel free to disagree. Students, again, feel free to disagree, and do drop your opinions within the Teams chat, or even just say them out loud if you feel comfortable, because I am quite interested in what you think. But personally, I think going off and doing a degree within university doesn't give you enough value than doing a apprenticeship. And it gets more intricate because the different levels of apprenticeships don't really matter. Um, a level 4 isn't as bad as a level 6, and a level 6 isn't as good as a level 4. The main benefit you get from an apprenticeship is you're working, you are classed as an employee. All of that time that you do as an apprentice, you could put down as your CV and say, I've done 2 years within industry, I've done 3 years within industry. So if you think about it, take two students, student A and student B, right? Student A goes off and does a degree with 1 year within industry. Student B goes off and does an apprenticeship, which is a 2 year scheme, and then they have a full-time job. By the end of the uni course, which is probably 4 years or 3 years, student B already has 1 year on student A. So say they both are now looking for jobs. Student A is looking for their first job. Student B is now looking for their second job. Just drop your answers, A or B, and I know it's quite self-explanatory, right? But who do you think is probably going to get the offer for a job? Student A or B, if they both apply to the same company? For those of you that are about to type in B or thinking B, you're quite right. That extra year within industry goes a long way, which is, and again, if any of you are thinking about doing a degree, I'm not trying to discourage you, but if you're trying to get into the industry with the best chances, and this is specifically in tech, so Will, you bring up a great point there. You bring up a great point. For some career subjects, yes, but some subjects in apprenticeship might not help. Brilliant point, and I completely agree with you there. Specifically when it comes into technology, so software development, software testing, cybersecurity, all of the tech-based jobs, I'd recommend going down the apprenticeship route, even if it's a level 4. Because the main thing is you're getting the industry experience, and companies sadly value the industry experience more than they do the degree. To put this into perspective, I'm now a full-time employee at IBM, completed a level 4 apprenticeship, then a level 6. But the gap between my level 4 and level 6, I got promoted before someone that went to Cambridge. And it baffled me for a while. Don't get me wrong, massive ego boost, but it baffled me for quite a while because I still came from that generation of the degree holds some weight within computer science, but it's, for one reason or the other, it's starting to lose it, and companies are shifting more towards apprenticeships, and they value apprenticeships a lot more. Also, fun statistic for you: um, an apprentice is twice as likely to stay within a company than a new hire. And I don't know why, but I'm only speculating here. It could be the sense of loyalty, I guess. This company invested into my career and my time. I earned something from the investment, so I now want to give back, and that's potentially might be the reason why I want to stick around. I'll be completely honest with you. The only reason I'm sticking around within IBM is because of the money. They pay very nicely and they treat me quite well. Um, Daniel, I'm just reading through your message here. In more practical industries, apprenticeships are definitely more preferred. You can learn a lot of knowledge in universities, but it might not mean much if you don't know how to apply it. But maybe in something like a doctorate degree, you require university due to this extension. Yeah, very true. Very true. There is a niche space within computer science where degree holds value, and that would be research, because a lot of that is learning new things and theorizing. That's where the degree really shines. But if you're talking about your day-to-day software engineer or software tester, it's more about how they apply the knowledge. And within the degrees, most uni courses don't really apply the knowledge well. And there's also another big negative that I see within the degree. Again, I could be completely wrong. Feel free to throw your opinions in the chat. Is when you're in university, your curriculum is almost set, but when you're doing the apprenticeship, you're moving with the wave. So as technology is progressing, you're going forward. Whereas within uni, as technology is progressing, there's a lot more roadblocks to switch the curriculum to get it to be in line. And I'm a perfect example of that, actually. I came in at a time where AI was very new, and a lot of my peers went off to do university and went to do computer science. I finished my courses around the same time as they did, so both my level 4 and level 6. I finished it around the same time as a normal uni degree. And I already knew how to utilize Gen AI, how it actually worked, what were the benefits and what were the negatives of it compared to someone that just graduated out of university. And again, companies see this gap. So when they see more years in industry, their eyes light up and they're likely to pick that applicant over someone who has less years in industry. If you still want to do a university degree, but have really good chances of getting your foot in the door, what I would recommend is get a lot of these certifications. Some of them are exorbitantly priced, so dodge those, right? But there might be some that are like 10 quid completely free. Pick up those certs, and that almost kind of signifies to the employer, I know how to apply my knowledge. And I know the degree should be doing that, but again, one reason or the other, it's currently not, which is why when most students come up to me and say, hey, I don't know what to do. Do I do a degree or an apprenticeship? And I say, well, is your main goal to get a job by the end of the degree? If it's yes, then straight off doing an apprenticeship. You're better spending your time there than going to university and relearning a lot of what you already learned. So those are the kind of 4 ways to get in to the door, with an added bit of spice of my personal opinion on which ones I value more. And to now be a snake oil merchant, I shall introduce you to how you can apply at IBM. Let me just share my screen if I can. Actually, before I do that, let me start the slideshow. Right. Do let me know if the screen is now sharing.
I can't see it. Oh, yes. Yes. Perfect.
There we go.
Thank you.
So, application form masterclass. I'm going to be very truthfully and very honest. A lot of this you could use across any company. So it's not really an IBM application for masterclass. It's just an application for masterclass. Right. That's my terrible impression at being a Birmingham gangster or a Peaky Blinder. Yeah, I think that was like a year into my apprenticeship, maybe just before. Can't remember actually. It's been that long. So application process, simple steps. I think you apply. It's an online assessment. Then it's application form, and a manager review. Then it's like an exploration session, which is essentially an assessment center, and then you have matching interviews. So the ones that turn up very commonly across all companies is applying, online assessment, which is like a 50-50 chance you have to do one. But for you guys, I'd highly prepare for an online assessment. You're more likely to get one than I did 4 years ago. This part I think is more IBM specific. That part is like an 80% chance you might get one. And that's very IBM specific because of the way we work as a company. So out of all of these steps, which ones do you think are the most important? So which step do you think is, yeah, this is the heavy hitting one? Yeah, it's applying. First impressions count. Now, a lot of the time when you look at example CVs, they're quite blank. And this is now me giving you career tips, so take notes. Make your CV not bland. Make it a bit colorful. So have things organized, maybe like a little section on the side which is grayed out or in a different color, some separators in that area, just to make it look a bit more fancy. And the reason I say that is, and I'm talking from experience here, when I've had to go and look for a new contractor to employ to help us out with a certain part of a project, I'll flick through CVs, and don't get me wrong, I'll read every single one of them. But when I see one that's a bit more spicy, colorful, looks like effort went into it, my eyes will light up. I'll straighten my back out and then get the glasses on. I'm like, oh, this person's put some effort into this. Oh, and I'm more likely to remember what they put down against what someone that had a black and white CV put down, just because it was a bit more colorful. And I've checked with other TA members, so talent acquisition members, and they've regurgitated the same thing. If it looks like some effort went into it, and it looks a bit fancy, we're more likely to remember that person over someone who just had a simple black and white CV. So yeah, applying is the biggest step. It's what sets the impression, and you want to set a good impression. Now, for you guys as new entries into the industry, you don't want to come across as a know-it-all or cocky, because that kind of comes across as it's very negative. And the reason I say that is because when a TA member looks at a CV and sees all of these brilliant, amazing technical skills and knowledge, and they see nothing in terms of human to human skills, so negotiation, talking, team working, and proof of where that comes from. At the back of their head, they go, if we hire this guy, yeah, he's technically strong, but he's a bit of a lone wolf. Or they're a bit of a lone wolf. That's negative for the whole company all around. Don't need them, don't want them. So have a good balance of technical skills and people to people skills, or soft skills, as people might refer them to. So what do we look for? Again, this is not IBM specific, very much industry specific. But as you could see, arguably only one of them really relates to technology, and that's creative problem solving. Everything else is a soft skill. Like nothing about communication speaks to me C# or Java or anything technical, right? You see how a lot of it is soft skills? Build those soft skills up and you're more likely to get past the application phase and get an interview. Yeah, we could do this. Right, what do you think makes the application good or bad? And actually, teachers get involved in this one as well. I'd love to see what the teachers think. I've got some interesting ones for what makes it bad. Frida, that is a very, very good point. Don't use ChatGPT to do your CV. We will catch you out. Michael's solid point on being vague. Be very specific on things you like, and it's almost quite obvious, isn't it? If you like something, you're going to show a bit more passion about that thing, and you're going to be very specific about that particular thing. But if you're just kind of faking it, which don't get me wrong, I faked a few things on my CV, but you need to make it look believable, right? If you're going to fake something, make it look believable and don't be vague. And I don't recommend faking anything in your CV, by the way. That's very bad career advice. Yeah, don't downplay yourself. That's a great point, Daniel. Don't downplay yourself. And that's more life advice than I'd say just career advice. Believe in yourself. Number one tip, just believe in yourself. Even if you come out with terrible grades or what you perceive to be terrible grades, just stick with yourself. Because the moment you step into the world of work, it's yourself and the work. That's it. Don't compare yourself to the person next to you, the person behind you, the person ahead of you. Your career is very much a personal journey. So believing in yourself is a big thing. Michael, you're quite on point with being concise and passionate. Faye, you've brought up a brilliant point there and kind of stole one out of my mind. Showing your personality. Please be charismatic within your CVs, your personal statements. It goes a super long way. Trust me, I've had quite a laugh reading a few CVs, and now those people work with me side by side, and they're the greatest people I've ever met. Make your CV like not funny. Don't make it into a comedy skit, but do show your personality. I'll be careful with the confidence one, Daniel, because you want to, especially as a new hire, you want to say you're confident in learning new skills, not that you're confident in knowing what you know. That's a very dangerous trap to fall into. Don't ever use the word, especially on your first ever CV going into a job. I'm fairly confident I know generative AI, or I know cloud ops, or I know this particular language or that particular technology. Because not trying to downplay what you know, but 9 times out of 10, you don't. You want to come across as you're willing to learn, you're willing to absorb knowledge, not that you already know the knowledge. They almost recruiters already know that you know, if that makes sense. Like, you wouldn't be applying for a job that you think you won't get. You want to be applying for a job that you think you're a good fit for. So at the back of their head, they're already thinking, yeah, this person already knows a bit about technology and what it's all about. They want to know how you're going to fit into the company. So never use the words "I know" or anything along those lines. Stick with "I'm open to learning," open to X, Y, Z. Yeah, checking out company values. That's a very good one as well. So, the bad one that I thought of was pretty much the opposite to what Faye put out there, but not showing your personality. Very, very bad. I'd avoid being bland and almost robotic, and to feed into Farida's point, almost AI generated. You really want to show off your personality in your applications. It's arguably the biggest factor of what leads to a successful interview or a rejection. So definitely show off your personality. Some tips on application forms. You could replace IBM there with company. So understand what the company does. Show your passion for it. Here is actually a really good tip. If you're going to apply for a bigger company, so IBM, Microsoft, or Google, which, in my opinion, from some of the responses I've seen in the chat already, I think a lot of you would be a great fit for. Understand how that company is structured. So, for example, at IBM, we have IBM, the big, massive parent company, which is based out of Armonk in the US. And then we break down into different services. We have consulting, technology, X-Force, which is where all the cybersecurity stuff happens, and you might even have like UX and so on and so forth. We have many different related companies. I sit, weirdly enough, between consulting and X-Force. So I'm part-time a consultant, part-time a cybersecurity specialist. Very weird dynamic. If you want to know more about it, talk to me on LinkedIn. I'll let you know. But understand how the company is structured, and then show your passion for that particular bit. So I knew going into my application, I wanted to be a consultant. I didn't want to just work on one project for the rest of my life. I want to be working with different companies, helping people out, actually making a difference. Not saying that just working in-house isn't making a difference, but you feel more of the impact as a consultant. And this is me giving my very biased opinion, by the way. So I catered my application for a consultant, not an IBM consultant, but a consultant all around. And yes, spell check. I'm dyslexic, by the way. So for anyone that has dyslexia, yeah, triple down on the spell check. Once you get into the interviews, you could then say, if comfortable, you're dyslexic, and they are a lot more forgiving with spelling errors or grammar errors or whatnot. STAR method, I don't know if they ever taught this to you in school, but this is a great one. Feel free to take a screenshot, or I could even send out the slides to your teachers and they'll then share it across. But this applies to a lot of different applications. Great framework. At IBM, we have a very interesting scheme, which is called a future scheme, and it's quite flexible. This is one of the ones I missed out in the topic earlier about the different ways into the industry. And the reason why I missed this out is because, as far as I know, IBM is the only company that does this. So as a future, you don't necessarily have to be within uni to do a future scheme. you could be outside of university and do one. And it's very different to an internship. As an intern, you're going to get this. It sounds very patronizing, but you're going to get intern tasks. As a futures, you'll kind of get embedded into a team, and you'll almost be doing like a day-to-day job. Very, very cool pathway, I think. If I was to change one thing when I applied, I'd say I would have applied as a futures, and then gone off and done my level 6. But yeah, it's a cool scheme. Again, this is just a star method in action. Think we could jump across a lot of this. Identifying your skills. So this is a bit of what we went over before, looking at your hobbies and what skills you can extract out of them. Do that and then crank it up to 100, essentially. That's the best way to do it. Be yourself again, what Faye said. Show your personality. A lot of companies are looking to hire the person, not the applicant, if that makes sense. So we don't want to know if you're a whiz at X, Y, Z in computer science, or you've got brilliant mathematical skills. We also want to know who you are as a human being, right? Are you funny? Are you quite reserved and introverted? Those are the kind of things we are looking for. And another thing to be conscious of is the role you're going for was likely already filled by someone else a few months back. So they're either looking for a personality type that matches what that person left, or a new personality that'll just shake things up a bit and almost introduce a new way of working for the company. So keep that in mind. You can take all of these down if you'd like. There's some interesting videos on the YouTube channel. But the main things that I'm required to show you whenever I do give back like this are the QR codes. We'll go over questions near the end. And if we've got time, I might play this video. There's a lot of cool things IBM has invented which you use on your day-to-day life. Quick fire example. If any of you have a credit card or a debit card, you know that black strip on the back? IBM invented that. We also invented the first computer, the first personal computer, and also the first commercially used quantum computer. So yeah, we've been around for a long time and we've invented quite a bit. I mean, we came out with punch cards actually. That was IBM. And I think the QR code's on this slide instead, so let me just bring that up for you. A lot of this slide is just how it goes over the life IBM, but if you want to know more about the future scheme, let me just play that slideshow from the current slide. That's the future scheme. That's how it's designed. Below are the entry requirements. This bit over here, by the way, not true. That bit is true. So futures are for post-college students. But that bit is not true, not anymore. Only your English and maths needs to be or teachers help me out over here, like a C or an equivalent for GCSE. So I don't know what that is in the number format. I think that's like a 6.
It's probably 5 or 6.
5 or 6. The apprenticeship schemes have got level 4 roles and degree apprenticeships. There's quite a fair few in terms of level 4 roles that we have. There's JMC, which is Junior Management Consultant, Software Test, Dev, DevOps, Project Management. There's a fair bit. But if you want to do a degree apprenticeship, this one is a very cool one to do because it's very flexible. So if you want to branch off into cybersecurity, you could do it with this particular degree. I don't know if this still rings true, but if you go off and do a level 4 first, that might account to some UCAS points. It did back when I did it, but I did hear some rumors about they're going to take it away for some reason, which I think is a silly idea. Silly idea. That's the. This is what I was saying before about an apprenticeship. You get a full-time job at the end of it, so it's quite worth it. Also, the salary by the end of the apprenticeship is almost double. So you'll start off on 24. So yeah, I started off on 24 and I ended at 48. Yeah. That 25 days paid vacation is actually 28. That's not true, by the way. There's about you got to work 3 or more days in the office. Very not true. If you're a consultant, it depends on what your client wants. If your client wants full remote work, you're working from home. If they want you in the office, you're in the office. This is very true. In terms of apprenticeship quality, for the last 4 or 5 years, IBM has been on top. So clearly we're doing something right. Humble brag. DTS, very good. If you direct yourselves to the photo here, this lady in the corner tucked away is Charlotte Fisher Moorcroft. And feel free to contact her on LinkedIn because she's very integrated with what we call IBM Foundation, and they deal with all like the apprenticeships and all of the degree apprenticeships, futures, all of that stuff. She knows all the right people to talk to if you want to get your foot in the door. University placement scheme. So this is about the internships I was on about. That's didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is. Grad schemes, if you want to do something after you get a degree. And again, be yourself. Like I said, very big thing at IBM. Do take a screenshot of this, and I will send you this slide. All of these people here. I don't know if Lauren still works with us, but Kashif and John, definitely get in touch with these two people if you want to try and get your foot in the door with IBM. Very, very good people to know. Scan that QR code if you're looking to apply. That's the part that I get paid to show. And again, there's that video, some more videos. And I think before we get into the videos, let's actually do some questions if we have time.
We just have a few moments. I think Hassan left. We have only got about 5 minutes, but I'd really like students to put any questions that they have into the chat. I think some students are already doing that. It's been absolutely brilliant, Hassan. Such a practical, experience-based presentation, which is just invaluable for students, because I think you shoot from the hip, which is what's needed. You tell it like it is, which actually is great for students. Obviously, students will really have benefited from that, and they'll get, different views from their tutors as well, perhaps sometimes talking more about the options on universities. But I think the apprenticeship model, especially with IBM, is particularly in this sector, is really, really useful to know. It really shows students as well. So keep asking in the chat, please, students, any questions whilst I'm talking. But it also shows, I think, those soft skills that everybody needs to have for this industry, despite the fact that it's a technical-based industry.
Oh, so Charlotte, that question on how many apprenticeships do they take a year on average, it depends on how many unfulfilled roles we have. So if there's only 6 open seats, only 6 people get in. To my knowledge, when I applied, it was the worst in terms of how many applicants they took on. So out of I think it was 1,300 or 1,600, somewhere between there, only 15 people got through. So it's very competitive, and you definitely need to be on top of it. Does IBM offer work experience? And yes, we do. Yes, we do offer work experience, and I've actually taken on a few people for work experience. It just means you need to hop out to our office in Warwick, and I'll hand over a few tasks for you to do, show you around. Quite a fun time.
Super, and perhaps we can stay in touch on that, Hassan, just to give either your presentation, which would be really helpful, or those slides that you can share with us. We can share with students when we send around the recording, yep. And also perhaps about how to apply for any work experience, yep. Would be really helpful too.
Frida, great question. Majority of the time you do get a full-time job afterwards, and just think about it from an economic standpoint. A company invests time and money into yourself to upskill you. 9 times out of 10, they don't want to let you go to a different company. They want to keep you. So if you get an apprenticeship at a smaller firm, and you end up finishing it, and you want to go apply somewhere else, use that leverage. Don't be shy to not use that leverage. Just what I was saying earlier about the industry is quite cutthroat, and sometimes you just need to be selfish.
That's really good. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've got another couple of students typing whilst we're waiting there. One of the things that I'd been asked in advance was, let's go to these questions. Hang on one second. After a computing apprenticeship, how flexible is it to take those skills to other fields?
I love this question because I'm literally in the middle of a sidestep. So I started as a software tester at IBM, and then kind of bumped into the right people at IBM, and then skyrocketed into a position where I really shouldn't be. Not in terms of I don't know what I'm doing, more in terms of I didn't think I'd get this far this quick. That's all right, Will. If you get in touch over LinkedIn, I will be able to answer any more questions you have. But essentially, I got put into a position where I was a delivery lead, which is more talking with the client and delivering different bits and bobs. I then kind of told myself, yeah, I'm good at this. I ain't gonna downplay myself, but I want to get into delivering cybersecurity work. So I sidestepped into cybersecurity, and you can do that with the apprenticeships. It's not that hard. You're no longer in the days where if you do an apprenticeship, you're locked into that particular role. Those days are long gone. We've evolved. We've now got more flexible apprenticeships.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Hassan, we're going to have to stop there only because we've run out of time, I'm afraid.
That's all right.
I know that students will be so glad of that advice. It's extremely valuable advice, and we'll share, if that's okay with you, we'll share the PowerPoint presentation and the work experience. I don't think you're able to be with us next Wednesday at the Careers Fair. I think you're not able to be there. I'm not sure. Yeah, which is unfortunate.
I tried my damnedest to make time for that.
Yeah, I know, but we will ask you to come in perhaps and talk to students, or do another one of these online sessions, in the near future. So yeah. Thank you so much, students. I hope you found that really, really useful. Thank you for participating, students, as well, because that's been really good, because it's been interactive, and hopefully you've got the information you need. Join with Hassan online and use those links that he's also given to you, and we will repeat those when we send around the recording. Hassan, thank you so much for your time. It's a real pleasure to have you online, and thanks for all of your input. All right.
Anytime.
Thank you. We'll get
Short, interesting point you bring about the project. Do ask Craig what I attempted for my level project.
Lovely.
Is he still telling that story?
He obviously is. Hassan, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye.